Have you heard what happened to Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise. A name the world instantly recognizes, a face that has been tied to some of the biggest films in Hollywood history. But behind the fame, behind the billion-dollar franchises and the daredevil stunts, is a life filled with far more struggle, heartbreak, loss, and survival than most people ever imagined. Tom Cruise didn't simply rise to the top. He climbed through chaos, rejection, family troubles, and constant pressure. And by the time he reached 2025, even he admitted that life was beginning to weigh on him in ways he had never experienced before. But his story doesn't begin on a movie set or inside a Hollywood studio. It begins in a small American town with a boy who felt lost and fearful long before anyone knew his name. Tom Cruise was born Thomas Cruise Mapother IV on July 3, 1962, in Syracuse, New York. His father, Thomas Mapother III, was an electrical engineer with a sharp temper. His mother, Mary Lee, worked hard to hold the family together, but tension in the house was constant. Tom later described his father in one powerful, unsettling sentence: he was a bully and a coward. For Tom, childhood wasn't filled with comfort or security. It was a period of constant movement and inconsistency. Money was tight, jobs came and went, and the family moved over a dozen times as Tom was growing up. That instability left deep marks on him. Every new school meant new people, new teachers, and another chance to be misunderstood. One of the biggest challenges he faced as a child was dyslexia. Words danced on the page, letters flipped, sentences never made sense. Teachers believed he wasn't trying. Classmates didn't understand why reading seemed impossible for him. Tom didn't know he had a learning disability. All he knew was that every day felt like an exam he couldn't pass. Yet this struggle gave him something he didn't realize at the time: relentless determination, the kind of determination that would later carry him through some of the toughest moments in Hollywood. A turning point that changed everything. Tom was 12 years old when his life took an unexpected turn. His mother quietly gathered Tom and his sisters, telling them to pack only what they needed. She was leaving their father, and she wasn't coming back. They walked out with nothing but bags in their hands and fear in their hearts. This moment became one of the most defining events in Tom's life. It showed him that sometimes survival depends on walking away from what hurts you. It also placed an enormous responsibility on his young shoulders. Overnight, Tom became the man of the house. He took small jobs around the neighborhood, shoveling snow, cutting grass, delivering newspapers, anything that could help his mother. This escape wasn't dramatic or loud. It happened quietly, almost silently, as if they were escaping a storm that no one else could see. Tom watched his mother struggle to provide for 4 children, and in her exhaustion, he saw the reality of adulthood long before it was his time to grow up. He learned early that life didn't give chances, you created them. And that realization shaped every decision he made afterward. He didn't complain, didn't rebel, didn't resist responsibility. Instead, he embraced it, becoming the emotional anchor his family needed. Despite the hardship, something unexpected happened during his years at a new high school. After a knee injury ended his time on the wrestling team, a teacher encouraged him to audition for the school play Tom had never imagined acting before. The idea of reading lines in front of people terrified him because of his dyslexia. But he tried anyway, and the first time he stepped on the stage, something shifted inside him. The audience responded to him. He felt seen, understood, and appreciated in a way he never had before. For the first time, Tom realized he had a voice. That moment planted a seed, one that grew into a dream he wasn't ready to walk away from. He wasn't perfect in those early performances, but he had something more important: presence. Teachers said he had a natural magnetism, an authenticity that drew attention even when he wasn't speaking. For a boy who had spent years hiding in the back of classrooms, fearful of being called out to read, the stage became a place of freedom. It became the first space where he didn't feel judged or limited, and that taste of acceptance lit a fire that even he couldn't fully understand yet. The leap that led to everything. At 18, Tom made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. With barely any money in his pocket, he traveled to New York City to pursue acting. He slept in small rooms, worked in restaurants, washed dishes, and stood in long audition lines. Casting directors rejected him constantly. They said he was too short, too intense, too unconventional. But Tom didn't let those words break him. His childhood had prepared him for rejection. He knew what it felt like to be pushed aside or underestimated. So he kept going. New York City was harsh, loud, and unforgiving, but Tom blended into its rhythm quickly. He lived in tiny apartments with barely enough space to stretch out, shared rooms with other struggling actors, and learned to navigate the city with almost no money. There were nights when he couldn't afford dinner, and mornings when he went to auditions still tired from late-night shifts. But he never lost focus. Each rejection only sharpened his resolve. Each no felt like a challenge. Eventually, small roles in movies like Endless Love and Taps came his way. Directors noticed something rare, an intensity, a seriousness, a focus that made him stand out among countless other young actors. Hollywood's doors began to open. But it wasn't until 1983, when Risky Business released, that Tom Cruise became a name everyone started paying attention to. The scene of him sliding across the floor in a white shirt became iconic. It wasn't just a movie moment. It was a cultural moment, and it launched Tom into stardom almost overnight. The success of Risky Business didn't just give him fame, it gave him validation. The boy who once feared reading aloud suddenly found himself on magazine covers and talk shows, but instead of letting success inflate his ego, Tom treated it like fuel. He didn't want to be a temporary star, he wanted to build something that lasted, and he knew that would require more work than he had ever done before. Top Gun and the birth of an icon. By 1986, Tom Cruise starred in Top Gun, the film that would change American pop culture. Maverick wasn't just a character, he became a symbol of daring confidence and youthful rebellion. People copied Tom's hairstyle, bought aviator sunglasses, and quoted his lines for years. The film pushed Tom from rising star to global icon, but his growing fame didn't bring comfort. Instead, it created pressure. Pressure to stay on top. Pressure to never fail. Pressure to be perfect. What many people don't know is how overwhelming that level of fame was for Tom. He wasn't prepared for it. One day, he was a young actor working his way up. The next, he was one of the most recognizable faces in the world. The Navy saw a massive rise in recruitment after the film's release, directly crediting Top Gun for inspiring thousands of young Americans. The media chased him relentlessly. Fans waited outside hotels for hours, hoping to catch a glimpse. For someone who had spent years blending into the background, becoming a global sensation was emotionally exhausting. Tom had learned early in life that stability could collapse at any moment, so he treated his success the same way. He didn't trust it. He didn't slow down. He worked harder, longer, and more intensely than anyone else. But along with fame came another challenge: maintaining relationships in an industry that devours them. The relationships that couldn't survive the spotlight. Tom Cruise's personal life became just as talked about as his films. His marriage to Mimi Rogers ended relatively quietly, but it left behind something that would follow Tom for decades: his introduction to Scientology. What began as a private belief became a public talking point, often overshadowing his work. His marriage to Nicole Kidman became one of Hollywood's most admired love stories. They looked perfect together, talented, glamorous, deeply connected. They adopted 2 children and seemed unstoppable as a couple. But the demands of their careers, long months spent apart during filming, and deeply personal struggles around family and faith eventually strained the marriage. After more than 10 years together, they separated, shocking fans around the world. Insiders said that during their marriage, Tom and Nicole often tried to escape the Hollywood spotlight by disappearing to remote locations or taking long drives away from cameras. They desperately wanted normal moments, cooking together, reading scripts at home, spending quiet evenings with their children. But fame rarely allows silence. Journalists followed them, tabloids invented stories, and fans analyzed every appearance. Over time, that pressure pushed cracks deeper into their relationship. Then came Katie Holmes. Their relationship was fast, passionate, and extremely public. Tom's infamous couch-jumping moment on Oprah, meant to express excitement and joy, turned into a cultural phenomenon. And not in a good way. Instead of celebrating him, many mocked him. This moment damaged his image more than he expected. Katie later left abruptly, filing for divorce in a way that left Tom blindsided. Their daughter, Suri, became the focus of endless media speculation. Tom never publicly explained the breakup, and the silence only made people more curious. Those close to Tom said he was devastated by how quickly the situation unfolded. One day, he was planning a future with his family. The next, he was alone, with the world watching and judging every move. The pain of losing daily access to his daughter cut deeper than any career setback he had faced. But Tom, trained for decades to hide vulnerability, never allowed the public to see his emotional wounds. For Tom, these losses were deeply personal. He had grown up watching his own family fracture. Losing his marriages, especially in the public eye, left wounds deeper than he ever let on. The collapse that almost destroyed his career. The mid-2000s brought one of the darkest chapters in Tom's professional life. His interviews on television created controversy. His involvement with Scientology drew heavy criticism. The couch incident became late-night comedy material. Major studios began distancing themselves. Even people who once admired him questioned if he was losing control. But rather than retreat, Tom chose to reinvent himself in a way no one expected. He became not just an actor, but a daredevil. There were executives in Hollywood who quietly predicted his downfall. Some studios pulled back funding, others refused to cast him in large roles, believing the controversy around him was too risky. Even longtime collaborators felt pressure from investors who worried Tom's public image was spiraling. The media painted him as unstable, out of touch, and overly intense. In reality, Tom felt cornered. Every move he made was magnified, every word twisted. But instead of letting the pressure crush him, he used it as motivation to rebuild himself from the ground up. Tom Cruise decided that if people doubted him, he would show them something undeniable: commitment. And he proved it through stunts so dangerous that most actors wouldn't even consider attempting them. He clung to the side of a real airplane during takeoff for Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. He climbed the Burj Khalifa almost entirely himself. He trained underwater and held his breath for over 6 minutes for another scene. And when he jumped between rooftops and broke his ankle, he kept running just to finish the shot. This wasn't just acting. It was Tom showing the world that he was still here, still powerful, still unstoppable. To prepare for these stunts, Tom trained like an elite athlete. He spent hours with professional skydivers, helicopter pilots, underwater specialists, and martial arts trainers. Crew members often said he trained harder than stunt doubles. He studied every angle, every movement, every possible risk before stepping into action. Directors said that Tom wasn't just performing stunts. He was orchestrating them. He cared about the physics, the camera placement, the safety of the team, and the emotional tone of the scene. He wanted danger to feel real because he believed audiences deserved authenticity. Behind the scenes, he built trust with stunt coordinators by listening, learning, and respecting the craft. His dedication made him not only a better actor, but a better teammate. But behind these jaw-dropping stunts was physical pain the cameras never showed. A body paying the price. Years of dangerous stunts left Tom with more injuries than he ever talked about publicly. Broken bones, torn muscles, bruised ribs, damaged joints. The list grew with every film. Doctors warned him repeatedly to slow down, to protect himself, to recognize his limits. But Tom wasn't used to slowing down. Speed and pressure had been his survival tools since childhood. He pushed through the pain because slowing down felt like losing. People close to Tom said the only time he ever seemed vulnerable was when he was injured. Even then, he refused full rest. He attended rehearsals on crutches, watched playback on monitors while icing his ankles, and planned new action sequences, even before he healed from previous ones. Crew members would quietly whisper that they didn't understand how he kept going, but Tom's fear wasn't pain. It was stopping. He associated stillness with danger, with memories of childhood instability, with moments when everything around him felt like it was falling apart. Pushing forward became his way of outrunning that fear. But even Tom Cruise couldn't outrun time forever. In 2020, when COVID shut down the world, filming stopped. Travel stopped. For the first time in decades, Tom found himself still, and stillness was something he had avoided his entire life. Crew members later said he seemed restless, pacing through empty sets, overly focused on protocols, unwilling to let anything go wrong. When some crew members ignored safety rules, Tom erupted. The audio leaked online. People mocked him again. But those who knew him understood the outburst came from fear, not ego. He had spent his life trying to control chaos. The pandemic made him feel like chaos was everywhere again. Those present on set said that the pressure Tom carried during those months was unlike anything they had seen. He wasn't only worried about the movie, he was worried about the hundreds of crew members whose livelihoods depended on production staying open. Many of them had families, bills, and no safety net. Tom took that weight personally. When he saw people ignoring rules, he didn't see carelessness. He saw the possibility of the entire team losing their jobs. His reaction came from responsibility, not anger. In a rare private moment, he admitted to a friend that he felt like he was holding everything together by a thread. The controversies that never left him alone. Tom Cruise's connection to Scientology became a permanent shadow in the public eye. He avoided discussing it in interviews, and his silence only fueled speculation. Gossip about his children, friendships, beliefs, and personal life spread faster than news about his movies. Tom learned to accept that some parts of his life would always remain misunderstood, so he did the only thing he trusted. He kept working. He became so private that even close colleagues didn't always know what he was going through. He compartmentalized his life in a way few people could manage. Work was one world, family was another, beliefs formed a third, and he kept them all separate like carefully guarded vaults. Some people interpreted this as coldness, but in reality, Tom had learned long ago that sharing everything invited pain. Silence became his shield, a way to protect the people he cared about, and a way to keep the media from twisting his words. By 2024 and 2025, something became impossible to hide. Tom Cruise, the man who ran across rooftops, who performed stunts no other actor would dare attempt, began to slow down. His knees troubled him. Recovery took longer. His back ached more often. His energy wasn't the same. People close to him admitted they had never seen him look so tired, but slowing down wasn't an option Tom easily accepted. He kept training, kept working, kept pushing through pain because acting wasn't just a career to him. It was the one place where life made sense. For the first time, Tom quietly began reconsidering the future. He wondered how many more years he could run, jump, climb, and fight on screen. He wondered if audiences would accept him in roles that didn't require physical intensity. He wondered if there was a life outside the spotlight, a life where he could slow down without feeling like the world was slipping away from him. These thoughts didn't come from weakness. They came from awareness. Awareness that even legends eventually have to change. Behind all the fame, Tom Cruise is surprisingly simple. He wakes early, trains rigorously, eats healthy, avoids alcohol, and lives with military-level discipline. He treats every film set like a mission. He memorizes scripts with uncanny focus. He pushes himself harder than anyone else on his team. People who work with him describe him as generous, intense, and completely committed. He never leaves a scene unfinished. He never walks away from responsibility. He gives everything, every time. People often assume Tom lives an extravagant Hollywood lifestyle, but those who have visited him say the opposite. He prefers functional spaces, simple routines, and quiet environments where he can focus. He doesn't indulge in distractions, no wild parties, no chaotic gatherings, no unnecessary noise. His life revolves around preparation, discipline, and clarity. Even his closest friends say he is most relaxed when he's working, because work gives him structure, and structure gives him peace. Tom isn't chasing awards or attention. He's chasing purpose. The purpose he found on stage as a teenager, the purpose that saved him from his chaotic past, and the purpose that still fuels him today. So, what really happened to Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise didn't just live a Hollywood success story, he survived one. He survived the fear and trauma of childhood. He survived the struggle of dyslexia. He survived rejection. He survived heartbreak. He survived public humiliation. He survived physical injuries. He survived emotional burnout, and he kept rising again and again, even when the world thought he was done. Every chapter of his life reflects a different kind of battle. His childhood taught him resilience. His early career taught him discipline. His relationships taught him vulnerability. His controversies taught him silence. His stunts taught him courage. His aging taught him acceptance. These weren't easy lessons, and he paid a price for each one, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But through it all, he never let the world dictate his identity. He defined himself on his own terms. What happened to Tom Cruise is the story of a man who refused to let life break him, a man who refused to stay down, a man who turned pain into fuel, rejection into motivation, and fear into power. Tom Cruise didn't become a legend because he was fearless. He became a legend because he fought fear every single day, and won. So yes, have you heard what happened to Tom Cruise? He became one of the greatest survivors Hollywood has ever seen. Not because he had a perfect life, but because he kept rebuilding himself every time life tried to tear him apart. His story is messy, complicated, emotional, and inspiring. He is a reminder that legends aren't born. They are forged in the hardest moments, shaped by scars, and defined by how many times they stand back up. Tom Cruise is still standing. And that's what truly matters. And as he steps into the future, whether he chooses to slow down or continue pushing boundaries, one thing is certain. Tom Cruise has already carved his place in cinema history, not through luck, not through privilege, not through an easy path, but through raw determination, relentless work, and a spirit that refused to break. His journey proves that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the decision to rise above it again and again.